Welcome to Vinyl Virtues, Part 2. For the next 25 minutes or so, we continue digging through the crates, sharing moments and memories with our gathered group of vinyl files. All aspects of human life have been recorded, stored and replayed on these thin, round discs. Not just music, recitals, conversations, historical documents, audio that would have been lost if it wasn't for some clever soul using resin from an unsuspecting insect to create shellac in the early 1900s. But enough of the science bit. Let's rejoin our guests, Jack Doyle, Arron Clague, Harry Rowe, Alex Honor, and a new arrival who we'll meet in just a moment, all poised and ready to reveal their most treasured records. And just to confuse things slightly more, we're joined by a second Arron now. We've got our own Arron Ibanez with us. Arron, you have been, I think, helping Jack out in the record store recently, haven't you?
I have. It's been a bit of a pastime of mine. Yeah, I really enjoy being in and around the shop.
So when did you first get interested in vinyl?
Probably when I sort of had my first proper band crush, which was when I was 16. I went and seen Foles play live, and it was Total Life Forever. And there was just something about that record that just kind of set the wheels in motion, I guess, in terms of exploring music. And I bought the LP just because it was like, oh, that's cool, that'll be a nice memento to stick in a frame or something. And I didn't actually realise that there was a practical side of vinyl, that it was actually something to listen to, not just hang on your wall. And then I went to uni and I sort of quite aptly studied music journalism, and then basically spent weekends or spare days in the basement of the local record store in Huddersfield called Vinyl Tap.
Very good.
And then, yeah, it was just any spare pocket money I had, I would be spending on little compilations, things like, I don't know, Sam Cooke, Patsy Cline, Connie Francis. Obviously, there's a bit of a theme here, which I later realised stemmed from that sort of maternal presence in my life, which was my grandmother.
Crazy, I'm crazy for feeling so lonely.
Turns out I'd be in the car, sat on the booster seat, and she'd have the tape player on, and it would be Patsy Cline, Connie Francis. So it sort of made me realise this sort of subliminal, subconscious thing that music has, that you kind of exercise later on in your life.
But you could argue that you could still do that by listening online, but like you said, it's more the sort of practical side of the vinyl that makes it something very different, isn't it? And, you know, from listening to the choices so far and hearing them put on the deck and hearing the needle sort of just click into the groove and then hearing that crackle, there's just something really romantic about it as well, isn't there?
Absolutely, and I didn't appreciate that, and I'm going to hold my hands up, and I think Jack is going to be privy to this. We were of a culture where we were downloading for free, and it was all about who could have the biggest music library, nicking music basically.
But that's what it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
In like the noughties, just trying to rob music.
This is redemption, I think, from Jack's point of view. Yeah, this is, you know, yeah, exactly.
And you've brought a bag of vinyl with you, Arron. What have you got in here?
Okay, so just without ruining the edges, I've got...
Oh, they look pristine. You do take care of your vinyl, don't you?
I try my best to, I suppose, yeah, after seeing the state my dad kept them in the garage, all moth-eaten and scratched, and, yeah, really appalling. Martin, sort your act out. So this is a limited press from Foles. I think they don't do it anymore, but it's basically a live recording straight to vinyl.
Oh, yeah.
And it was quite a big YouTube feature as well, again, back in the earlier days, about 2010, where YouTube was sort of taking off for music, or at least being a space for live music. But it's two tracks, Blue Blood, which is the opener of the album, and Spanish Sahara, which was arguably like the biggest hit that really just changed the game for Foles. But also a cover of Tears for Fears, which I think quite unusual. I know Robbie Williams has just recently murdered it, so I'd like to, again, on the topic of redemption, maybe that might be something to play.
Nodding there at what Arron was saying, Jack.
Yeah, recording straight to vinyl. I think Jack White's Third Man Records. You can just go to their factory now and play and get it on like in the same day. Go and produce your own single onto vinyl. And there's a shop in Liverpool, Jacaranda Records. They had an old booth in there where you can go and record, and then they'll print your record right there and then. So yeah, it's still happening.
Maybe that's something Lime Range should go and do. Go and get that done. I have to admit, it's one of my favourite moments of travelling. I did go to Third Man Records, and it is an awesome experience. If you ever get a chance to go over there and just go and check it out, it is quite a wonderful thing.
All I got inside is vacancy.
And I love the fact that Foles record, Arron, it almost looks like it's been hand sprayed. Is any of that artwork done by hand?
So they've almost had their own artist throughout, a guy called Tinhead, I think, who basically did all their singles artwork, all their album artwork, and yeah, sort of basically hand sprayed this. You're absolutely right. Yeah. So it's limited. I think it doesn't say. I'm sure it's 1,000.
Wow.
So I think I'm fairly lucky with this one. So I've got to keep this in good condition.
I have to admit, it does remind me of a record that I've got, which was by a group called Athlete, with their first single when they put it out, West Side. They released a 7-inch, and every single copy was hand sprayed with their logo on it, and they put them in envelopes themselves and sent them out to people. And I just love that. There's something about that sort of human touch and that connection with the band, which is very different to just connecting on things like Instagram and Twitter, really, isn't it?
It harkens back to punk, I think, as well, because I think the days of like the 3-chord band selling out the back of their car, you know, cassette tapes and sort of mixtapes that they've done. I think that's the ethic, that punk ethic that's really just sort of came right through. And I think people are really embracing cassettes again, because I think they're really cheap to record to, aren't they?
So what else have you got in your bag?
I thought it would be fitting to bring out the first record I bought from Jack, which is Echo and the Bunnymen, Porcupine. I bought it because of the first track, The Cutter, which I heard in a pub in Melbourne, very far from home, and then I heard The Cutter played. I didn't know what it was at the time, but there was something that was resonating with me, and I went and spoke to the guy behind the bar. I said, who is that? Who's playing that track? He said, it's Echo and the Bunnymen. Aren't they from where you're from? He thought I was from Liverpool, and they're quite the track.
Now, this one that you're about to bring out here, I am really excited about this. Tell us what you got.
Again, adventures with Jack. We went and raided a lockup. Oh, completely legally.
Yeah,
we got asked to go, but it was like
a whole afternoon, wasn't it?
A whole afternoon of about 20,000 records.
Yeah.
We were shivering, like sifting through, trying to cherry pick. Yeah. I'd always been looking for, I don't know, some prose or some poetry on a record, particularly having read like Jack Kerouac. I know he did like a blues and haikus record, but that's going for like hundreds of pounds on the internet. So I came across, along with The World of Dylan Thomas in poetry and prose with excerpts from Under Milk Wood, I also got in the same shelf, in that same lockup, Under Milk Wood, fully recorded at some theatre in New York with Dylan Thomas. It's not quite as good quality as this one, but sticking it on a record, I think, again, you really sit up and pay attention to poetry when it's delivered to you like that, and particularly the opening poem read by Richard Bebb. In My Craft or Sullen Art, I'd never heard that poem before in my life, and it was big impact. It just got me, and it still does. So yeah,
I'm going to ask if you wouldn't mind putting on that record for us to hear, because I think it's a really intriguing thing to bring with you. While you're heading over the decks, I'm just going to ask Jack actually. Interesting that I know you've talked in the past about the fact that you get the opportunity to go through people's collections when they leave them. It's almost like getting a real sort of intimate insight into that person and their personality. You must find out quite a lot about people that way.
Yeah, you do. It's funny because you see people like at the latter end of the, like older people, and all this music that they're listening to, and you're relating to it because you're listening to it at the time, and you wouldn't always connect with the older person, but you can connect with them straight away. You were like me one day, and it's brilliant. And I think music's one thing that everyone can relate to, absolutely everyone, no matter what age, gender, or anything. Yeah.
And it's not just, as we're about to hear, it's not just about music, and that's something we discovered on the last Vinyl Virtues as well, with the very intriguing records that were brought along. Arron's going to prove that now. What have you chosen? Which poem have you chosen, Arron?
I've chosen In My Craft or Sullen Art, read by Richard Bebb.
In my craft or sullen art, exercised in the still night, when only the moon rages and the lovers lie abed with all their griefs in their arms, I labour by singing light, not for ambition or bread, or the strut and trade of charms on the ivory stages, but for the common wages of their most secret heart. Not for the proud man apart from the raging moon I write on these spindrift pages, nor for the towering dead with their nightingales and psalms, but for the lovers, their arms round the griefs of the ages, who pay no praise or wages, nor heed my craft or art.
That was absolutely wonderful. I thoroughly enjoyed that. I'm intrigued to know what we got Harry and Alex here from Lime Rain. What did you make of that, Harry? And have you ever come across anything like that that's not music necessarily, but sort of some more interesting recordings?
I actually haven't. I love poetry. I've really been into John Keats. I read a lot of John Keats and a lot of romantic poetry, really. But I've never ever heard anything like that, no, not on vinyl.
This is going to start a new obsession for you, I think, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Alex, I'm going to come to you then. And with regards to Lime Rain then, are you guys ever, do you think, going to put out a record?
I mean, we're definitely hoping to, but like when we finish exams and stuff, we've got like just a ton of time then. We'll probably spend like nearly every day doing stuff like that probably, and sort of we're getting nuggets of ideas so far. We keep saying to each other going, oh, I've got an idea for this, and Harry said that before that he actually got a demo done. In the meantime, trying to get through school stuff.
And would you hope that when you do get something together, are you going to go for a vinyl release? I know it's a little bit expensive, but I'm sure you'd like to, wouldn't you?
Some special pressings, maybe. No, that'd be really cool to do. Got to get the album written first.
Let's have another choice from your bag of tricks here. You talked us through some of the ones before, and you've brought some fascinating stuff with you. What are you going to go for your second choice?
It's called Evan Finds the Third Room by Krangbin. It's KHRUANGBIN. It's yeah.
Alex is very excited about this. I take it you're a fan as well.
Yeah, absolutely amazing.
Super slinky. That was so cool. I love that one.
If you've just tuned in to us here on Manx Radio, you're listening to the second part of Vinyl Virtues 2. So far, we've heard a mesmerising reading of a Dylan Thomas poem and a super cool offering from a Texan experimental funk band, Which begs the question, what on earth could be next?
So coming back to Arron Clegg now. Now, Arron, what have you thought of what we have heard so far?
It's all fantastic, isn't it? It's great that all these records sound so different from each other from the sonic point of view, and obviously very different music as well.
I'm intrigued to know what your setup is. How do you listen to your records?
I have an ongoing thing in my life where I just try different bits and pieces out, and I'm sort of, I guess, older than most people here, and so I'm back from the day when I've got like a collection of things like, spherical stylus I use for used records. I've got like an elliptical sapphire stylus that I use for new records. I've got a conical style stylus that I use for mono records.
Wow.
I've got magnetic cartridges, moving coil cartridges, the rest of it, and I just love playing around with it all.
I'm fascinated by that. I understood absolutely none of it. But, Jack, that's impressive, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Like myself, I don't know whether I'd be able to notice the difference, but I guess you can.
Have you got good ears?
Well, I think it comes from even the simple act of getting a £2 and you put it on top of the stylus to hold it down on the scratched record. You notice all the top end goes down and the bass comes up and the stereo field comes in. Then they take it off again and say, oh, why does that sound different?
Do you know, it's fascinating that because I was chatting to Mark Tiley, in fact, the other week about records, and he was talking about how in the day, in order to create what we would now create on computers with compression, they would make a deeper groove in the record to make it sound louder, or a wider groove. Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So the reason why 45 singles exist was because you could cut wider grooves in that format than you could in a 33 RPM record. So it means if you're trying to make a disco record or something quite dynamic, you could make the grooves deeper and wider, and that gives you a more dynamic range.
Wow, there's just so much to learn. I just want to put a record on and listen to it. My word. You have brought other records. You mentioned Max Richter before. Tell us a little bit about this one.
Max Richter is a 20th century contemporary minimalist composer. And this is a great record for two reasons. It's what's called a hybrid record, so it's made partly with orchestral and acoustic sound sources and partly with computers and synthesizers. So this is the first what we call hybrid record that Deutsche Grammophon have ever issued. And it's just an absolute masterpiece, taking all the stuff that the 20th century, like John Cage, Philip Glass, and all those kind of people, and reinterpreting Vivaldi through computers and orchestras into something completely new. So I think the premise of it is that Four Seasons is great, but everyone's heard it too many times on hold and the rest of it, and so it just goes over your head these days. So the idea was to mix it up a bit so that it appeared fresh.
Oh, I'm intrigued by this. Can we put it on? Can we have a listen? Again, something entirely different. Oh, beautiful cover as well. Beautiful sleeve on that one. So recomposed, it's saying, by Max Richter. So yeah, very intrigued by this one. Gosh, that almost made me want to cry. That is absolutely beautiful, Arron. Honestly, I loved that.
Best one on it.
I think it's fair to say you have a hugely eclectic mix of music. Like, is there anything you wouldn't want to listen to from a genre style or?
Do you know, I've still never got into bands with guitars in them. So it's not as eclectic as you might think.
Thank you so much for that, Arron. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Alex, what did you make of that Max Richter choice?
I was just saying to Harry, I got goosebumps in it. It was just like, especially strings and stuff I mentioned before, it's just something that really gets you. And you mentioned like you wanted to cry with it as well. It's like something that's really just like emotive about them. A bit overwhelming, really.
It was almost overwhelming. And when I chatted to you on Record Store Day, you sort of classed yourself as a new collector. Has being involved in this made you more passionate about the idea of getting more involved in this?
Absolutely, because I've already bought another vinyl.
So when you were last with us in the studio talking about when you were with Lime Rain and we had you up in the studio doing a session, we did talk quite a bit about Fleetwood Mac and how much you all enjoy Fleetwood Mac. In fact, you did a Fleetwood Mac cover in the studio with us.
Thunder only happens when it's raining. Players only love you in that place.
So I'm delighted to see what your second record is.
Yeah, as like a new collector, I feel like this is just a benchmark one to get, just because it's just an essential, really. So it's Rumours by Fleetwood Mac. And we did Dreams, which is just an iconic song, but I thought I'd play The Chain off this one.
Oh, good choice.
Listen to the wind blow, watch the sun rise.
And there we close the doors on Sound Records. You can, of course, go and sample the sounds and experience the magical musical emporium for yourself, though. Just pop in and say hi to proprietor Jack in his vinyl wonderland in the basement of the old Peter Louis building underneath Rehab Squared. Just be prepared to walk out with a good weight of wax under your arms, as there is much to be tempted by. Many thanks to my contributors this series, Arron Clague from Jules Verne Theory, Harry Rowe and Alex Honor from Lime Rain, our very own newshound and music journalist Arron Ibanez, and Jack Doyle himself, who again gave up his time and the majority of his shop for our recording. You can listen again to this and last week's episodes via Manx Radio on demand. Just look under the Island Life tab. That's all from me, Christy De Haven. Thank you for listening. See you on the flip side.